Now before we begin, I just want to give a quick PSA to all Valve enjoyers, enthusiasts, and players of Deadlock, TF2, and CS2. Essentially, I want to tell you guys that this video is not to bash or frown upon any players or communities that I just listed. Rather, this is to break down and kind of deep dive into Valve's decision making while they're making their games, and more so specifically of how they treat Counter-Strike and its player base. Thank you guys, and let's begin. So every year, Team Fortress 2 typically receives a summer update, and this time around it's no different. Just a couple of days ago, on July 24th, Valve came out of the blue and dropped a major update for CS2. And yes, it's pretty great and pretty awesome as a performer and, well, sometimes enjoyer and player of TF2, and of course great for Team Fortress players. But other Valve enjoyers, and more so specifically Counter-Strike players, are not just jealous and angry, yet more so confused than anything else. How does a game that has not even half the size of the Counter-Strike player base have more content and more updates and more attention to details and what feels like care than anything else? Now today's video, like I mentioned at the very beginning in our PSA, is not to bash certain communities, games, and players of those games, but more so look into Valve than any time before. But before we do so, I want to thank SkinsMonkey for sponsoring today's video. Are you bored of your current Counter-Strike loadout and want to trade it out for something different? SkinsMonkey has you covered. As a buying and trading marketplace, SkinsMonkey offers amazing deals and the fastest way to trade out your old skins for something new. By using my code MANDO, you can get up to a free $5 by spending $100 or more, as well as you also get a 35% deposit bonus when topping up your balance. With SkinsMonkey's large variety of skins, they also offer daily, weekly, and monthly giveaways. If interested, the link will be at the top of the description down below. So yeah, myself and most of the entirety of the CS community are just as shocked and confused as you are. Those who don't know, or maybe have been living underneath a little bit of a rock, we just got Season 3 of Premiere with minimal changes, fixes, and overall additions to the game. And that's all despite having the most amount of leaks and data mines that could be coming soon that we've seen in the last few years of CS just in general. And then we have TF2, where it has an average of 60k players a month, a community that Valve listens to at least sometimes in regular content updates. And yes, of course, I know that TF2 doesn't really get as much support as CS2 does, and it does make sense as to why, but why do so many players, including myself, get the idea that Valve cares more about anything and everything aside from CS2? Well, for starters, as a CS player, I know I can somewhat be a little bit aggressive towards new updates, but in CS2, I believe we have a good reason to why we, well, somewhat feel this way. Right now, CS2 is relatively still a new game, yet has half the features and content that a 20-year-old installment in the franchise had just a little while ago. And here, 2.5 years later, CS2 is still very lacking in almost every department. Instead of content like an operation, we're just getting the skin side of things, that being with the armory. You want missions or co-op style missions to earn prizes, XP? Well, you get weekly missions. Where right now, it's really not even really worth your time to play unless you happen to get a challenge we can earn by playing a map and mode that you already play on a daily basis. You want a new map that stays in the game that people actually play and actually enjoy? Too bad. Devs just switched the map pool around, and it's the same maps we've seen time and time again for the last decade. And that's just a very small idea of where I'm coming from, not to mention the entirety of the CS community. But I believe at least it makes a point. Not to mention you also have those situations with bot farms and bots taking control and over lobbies. Those who have forgotten, TF2 just a couple of years ago had a massive problem specifically with bots, to the issue where players had to start a petition and was eventually dropped off at the Valve headquarters in Washington. And for the most part, they listened to their community and did what they could, despite the game being over a decade old and a fraction of its former self, that being with income, players, the community, you name it. CS2, on the other hand, you just have to sit there and enjoy it. Now, 2.5 years later, the movement still feels weird, and the game is buggy, not to mention the rapid problem with cheaters. 2 years later, and after millions have been made, nothing has changed, and in a situation like this, it's extremely hard to see the light at the end of the tunnel. Now, this begs the question of why Valve feels the way they do about Counter-Strike. Well, this topic itself could be a video itself, but to summarize it, CS and its community, yes, does complain after most updates, but the majority of the time, like we stated earlier, I feel like it is needed. Some of it is just criticism, but a lot of it's constructive, and Valve just doesn't want to listen to it. I mean, just recently with Season 3, they had a late release date comparing to when they actually said they'd have it out. The teases with players being able to see the leaked data mines suggesting night maps are coming to the game, not to mention we have paper stickers going in the dark from the Austin Major. That suggests enough that is coming soon, especially with the new season where you want to have new features, new maps and modes to please players, not to mention bring new and old players back and new players in. We also have cash being bought, also seen in the game files, not to mention we also have other maps like Cobble, Lake, Canals, and other modes of features such as retakes, not to mention co-op missions we've also seen in game files yet haven't returned yet. And then with Season 3, we get a badge and overpass back in the pool. Right now, we also have an anti-cheat that does not work. And yes, when you are playing anything online, you can't combat against all cheaters, but you should be able to do a lot more than what we had just 10 years ago, but that's aside the point. If Valve can't do it, let the players do it. Overwatch is out of the game in 2024, and we still can't access it. It's a very basic and easy to add feature that we had in CSGO back in 2015, yet still isn't here in CS2 over 10 years later. And time in and time time out, Valve makes millions on just cases alone, and in some rare instances, we also make that on stickers. But the thing with that is the game, I feel like, sees none of it, not even a fraction return back to the players in the CS community. We have situations where millions were made from just the Fever case in the first weekend alone, millions made at majors, millions spent and made on the Armory, yet like we just stated, CS2 sees none of it. And then we also have instances where I don't really ever think Valve intended or thought CS, at least the market side of things, would reach the height it has over the last few years. And in some weird way, I feel like it's almost as a punishment that the market's growing, expanding, and more people are getting into skins than any other time before. But based on the content and Valve's decision making over the last couple of years, content drops like an operation can essentially never happen, at least in the ways that we originally thought, because of the new additions like the Armory, where those things get in the way and now can be annoying. I feel like I could probably ramble on for multiple hours on end about this topic, but I feel like you guys get my points and maybe an understanding of where Valve but also the CS community is coming from. Now, what do you guys think? Do you guys feel the same way? If you do, if you don't, if you're somewhere in the middle, leave your thoughts and comments down below. Love to hear it. Like I stated throughout today's video, this wasn't to bash or look down or frown upon any other players within Valve's games, yet to one, explain to the community of what's going on and where we're coming from, but also to understand Valve's logic, which we might not ever understand that. Ladies and gentlemen, Fallout.